Alright engineers, welcome back to another tutorial. In today's demo, what we're going to be doing is actually putting completed parts together. So in today's demo, you're actually not going to have to create any of these parts. These parts, the box, the lid, and the pin that connects those two, they're already going to be created for you. So all you're going to have to do is make a copy, and you've done that before. I'm going to show you here in just a second how to do that. But what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be assembling these things together. So you've probably seen this tab before, the assembly tab. This is where we're actually going to be doing all of our work today. And so by the end of today, your project should look like this box that opens up and closes with realistic motion, so it's not going through the box, and when we open it up, it's not going to open beyond where it actually could open. And then the other thing too, if you move into this pin, notice that this pin is sliding in and out. Okay, so just like it would in real life, we would be able to slide that pin in, and then we can open and close this box. So you're going to see how to do that, and you'll be following along with me to do that. But the first thing you'll need to do is actually make a copy of the individual parts. So to do that, in Google Classroom, you're going to click on the Onshape link in the assignment. And once you've opened up that link, you'll go up to the top here in the document menu, and you will copy the workspace. When you copy the workspace, make sure that you change the class name. Make sure that you change the last name and you take off copy. And the proper naming convention for this assignment is class name underscore assembly demo underscore last name. Go ahead and get started. Like I said, when you make this copy, you'll see that you have the box, you have the lid, and you have the pin. Okay. So what we're going to need to do first is create our assembly space. So to do that, we'll click on Insert New Element, and then create assembly. So now you'll see it moves us to this new space where all we have is our origin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to insert the box. So to insert any part in this top left corner, you can see insert. And then we have our different parts that we created. So we have the box, we have the lid, we have the pin. So like I said, we'll start with the box. We can move this around. In order to set it down, you just left click once. And then if we don't do this, so you can see we can just move this around all over, we want to make sure that we fix this box into a position. So it doesn't matter where, because all the other parts are just going to be put on this, but this needs to be fixed. So in order to fix this in position, what we do is we right click, and then we choose this option that is fix. And so now if I try to click and move it around, you can see it gives me that red X. Like, no, you can't do that because you fixed that into a position, and that's what we want. So now we can move around this, that's fine, but we can't move this, and that's what we want. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in the lid. So again, we're just going to click on the part that we want to add, and then we'll click one time to add it into the space. Okay, so if you remember, on the finished product, we saw this lid rotating up and down, and it was on the box. So it's not as easy as just putting these together and being like, oh yeah, it works perfectly, right? We actually have to add in what's called a mate connector. And what a mate connector does is it connects two surfaces together so that they're touching. And then it allows them to rotate a certain way depending on which mate connector you choose. So if we want this to be able to rotate, we're going to choose the Revolute mate connector. Okay. Now you can see what it wants you to do. So it says create a Revolute mate constraint between two parts in an assembly. The parts rotate about the axis only. And that's exactly what we want. Okay. So Onshape is pretty smart, and it will take an entire part and it will move it to another entire part and connect them together by only choosing one point on each of the parts. So it's actually really kind of simple to do. You just need to make sure that the points that you're connecting are in the right spot. Okay. So if we're thinking about this, we want this hinge to be on top of this box. So we want this inside part of the lid hinge right here to be touching the inside part of this box right here. And so in order to do that, we need to put the mates on those surfaces. So the first one, like I said, is on this hinge here. And you can see once you get to the lid hinge, there's three different options. So we can either be on this surface, we can be in the middle, or we can be on the far. We definitely don't want to be the far, definitely don't want to be in the middle. We want to be on this end surface. So make sure that you've clicked on that. If you're having issues with like other things popping up, Once you're hovering over the cylinder, if you hold shift, that will limit it to where you're only choosing between the three parts on here, and it makes it easier to choose just the end surface. So we click once there, and you should see that the first mate connector is the mate connector of lid 1. So that's good. We're good there. Now we're going to go ahead and zoom out, and we're going to move over to the other surface where we want to connect that lid. So you can think, like I said, right here is where we're going to be wanting to connect it. Again, if you're having issues with selecting the part, we want the one on the end. So once you're hovering over the cylinder kind of area, if you hold shift, it allows you to only choose between those three. And we can just choose the one on the end by clicking on it there. And voila, look at that. It moved our lid right onto the top of the box, exactly where we want it to be. And you can see that we have this connection between those two surfaces right there, which ends up then connecting all of these others because we properly dimensioned our parts to begin with. Okay, so that's cool. Now, if we look at this right now, so if we press play, this is going to animate and it'll show us the rotation that can happen with that connector that we have. So let's go ahead and press play. Whoa. So that was good. And actually, you know what you can do? You can actually click. So if you left click and you just move around, you can see the entire rotation that can go. So this is cool, but we know that in reality, this is a spot where this lid's never going to get to, right? It's never going to go through the box. And you can kind of also think that it's never going to get to probably like right here either, right? Because this is going to be kind of intersecting the lid. It would never happen. So what we need to do then is we need to add some limits to this rotation. So really, it's only going to be able to go, you know, from right here to right here. Okay. So if we're looking at the limits here, so this first limit is going to be 360 degrees. So that's going to be the maximum that we allow this to go. Okay. So if we're thinking about limits, when we choose this, the maximum is going to be 360. Now, when we rotate this around, we can see the minimum. And depending on how you did your mate connectors, you might have different angles than I did. But all you need to do is you just need to have, you know, one right here. It's going to be either 90, 180, 270, or 360. And so you just have to find the angle that's here. So for me, this is 360. And then this one right here is 180. So I know that when I set my limits, my minimum angle is going to be the smallest, the 180. My maximum angle is going to be 360. And so if I confirm that, press play, it's got to reset. So you have to press play twice actually to get it to where it's going to go. So now if I press play, oh, look at that. I screwed it up. I did it the wrong way around. So it looks like I need to go from 0 to 180 actually. Like I said, you'll have to play around with this. 0 to 180. Now let's see. There we go. Okay, so that's good. I showed you that mistake. It could happen. Like I said, you'll have to play around with your angles. But at the end of the day, when you press this play, you might have to do it twice. Your lid should only rotate in those realistic positions. You need to make sure you set those angles to where it is only rotating in the realistic position. Okay, so we can go ahead and confirm that Revolute. And that's cool. So we have this box that's opening and it's closing and it's opening and closing. But we know in reality, unless there's a pin that's connecting these things together, it's not going to have that motion at all. So what we need to do then is we need to add in that last part, which is our pin. So to do that, we'll click on Insert. We'll choose the pin. And then we can set it anywhere in here. Because just like what we did, so we can go ahead and confirm that. Just like what we did when we connected the lid to the box, we're going to do the same thing for the pin to the insert where the pin should go. So this time we're actually going to choose the slider mate because we want this pin to be able to slide in and out. And again, it's as easy as just choosing those different surfaces that you want to connect. So the first one is on this pin here. Select that. And then we'll go to the pinhole. Again, you might have to zoom in, you might have to hold shift. At the end, we want this end surface. So we select that. And now you can see that the pin is right located between all of our hinges. So if you look,
this is nicely in there. If we want to actually pull the pin out, we can click on it, we can move it out, or actually, sorry. If you have another slider pop up, you definitely do not want that. You only want one slider and one Revolute. So exit out of that. But then, yeah, now if we go in here, we can see that if we move this pin, move it in and out, just like we would if this was in real life. And we can move this lid up and down. Okay. So again, this might take you some trial and error. You might not have the exact same angles as I do. You might have some issues with these mate connectors. But I think if you troubleshoot this, the more you're working through this, the better you're going to understand it and the better you're going to be able to kind of get yourself through problems as we continue to go through assemblies. So if you're struggling, continue to work. If you need help, call me in and I can help you out. But remember, the more that you can troubleshoot yourself, the better you're going to get at this and the less problems you're going to have going forward.